United Nations has declared the year 2026 as the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, and which is why today our center of focus would be around grasslands of the world. See, while the whole world keeps on talking about forest and all the climate policies are centered around forest and related areas, grasslands are usually neglected, but they are equally important as a part of the national climate plans. An important thing is that grassland remains underrepresented in the national and global climate plans, and as we saw in the UNFCCC COP30, it continued to prioritize forest without any mention of grasslands. Even though grasslands are very critical for climate regulation, for biodiversity, for livelihoods, and yet they are unrepresented in climate and conservation policies due to a forest-centric approach and due to institutional silos and weak legal protection. And which is why recognizing grasslands, integrating them into the global climate commitments, and empowering the pastoral communities is very important, especially in the year 2026, which is the International Year of Pastoralists and Rangelands, which is designated by United Nations, and it is essential for a sustainable and inclusive ecosystem governance. Which is why today's topic of discussion would be grasslands. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh and you're watching Perspective. The first question is, what do you mean by grasslands? See, grasslands are open terrestrial ecosystems which are dominated by grasses. They are not dominated by trees, they are not dominated by shrubs, but they are dominated by grasses. And they have a very sparse or no tree cover and adapted to seasonal droughts, grazing and fires. And several examples of grasslands can include savannas, can include rangelands and pasture commons. And according to UNESCO, it defines them as a land with less than 10% of the tree cover and shrub cover, while wooded grasslands, they have around 10 to 40% of the tree cover. An important thing to note here is that grasslands are neglected but are the largest ecosystems in the world, which are covering around 40.5% of the Earth's terrestrial area, excluding the Greenland and Antarctica, and it far exceeds the extents of woody savannas or shrublands and tundra. And they play a very huge critical ecological role in the ecosystem, with the tropical and subtropical grasslands, they're storing around 15% of the global terrestrial carbon. So, for carbon storage as well, grasslands are very, very important ecosystem-wise and environmentally. And not just this, they are huge supporters of livelihood for millions of people as well. So, they support livelihood of around 20% of the world's population, which is humongous. And especially these communities are pastoralist communities or agro-pastoralist communities which are relying on natural disturbances, regimes such as fires or grazing to maintain biodiversity and ecological ecosystem balance. And not just in the world, grasslands are very common and very important in India as well, which is why they occupy around 24% of India's geographical area. Although even less than 1% of the geographical area of this grasslands are protected, but they occupy around 24% of India's geographical area. An important thing to note here is that they have witnessed a severe decline over a period of time. And major grassland areas in India can be found in states of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Terai Duar belt of Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Assam, and West Bengal. And also we can see alpine grasslands in the region of Himachal Pradesh and in Ladakh as well. So which means grassland as an ecosystem is very dominant in India and is very prominently found in Indian regions, and almost all the major states of India, they have a huge cover of grasslands. One famous grassland you must have heard of would be Bunny grassland, which is in the Kutch district of Gujarat, and it is the largest grassland in Asia. And the sorry state of affairs with the grassland, which I've already told you, is that despite such ecological benefit, despite such livelihood value of the grasslands, only less than 1% of India's grasslands are formally protected under a formal conservation network, which is definitely an alarming bell for us in the year 2026 to go for protection of these grasslands, as huge importance in ecosystem value is created by these grasslands. Now, since we have a little bit information about grasslands in front of us, one very important question which you might ask is that what is the importance of grassland overall? Let us just try to put the rules of grassland into several points. The first point would be climate regulation, which I've already told you that these grasslands, they act as huge carbon sinks, which means especially the tropical grasslands, they help in mitigating climate change because they help in absorption of carbon, terrestrial carbon from the earth. That is one, climate regulation. Now, second one would be biodiversity conservation. Now, these huge grasslands, they serve as biodiversity hotspots. They serve as habitats for diverse plant species, for birds, for grassland dependent wildlife as well, which is why for biodiversity related reasons, they are very, very important. So first is climate regulation. Second is biodiversity. Third is livelihood. As I've told you that around 20% of the world's population is dependent on these grasslands for their livelihood, especially the pastoralist communities. So with this respect also, grasslands become very, very important. And not just this, for water and soil regulation, grasslands are very, very important, and they aid in groundwater recharge, and they reduce soil erosion and help in regulating the local hydrology of the region as well. And not just all, they help in maintaining ecosystem stability as well. Because they are dependent on natural fire or grazing, these regimes maintain ecological balance on the earth and helps in maintaining resilience also. Now, some very famous grasslands in the world can be categorized into two parts. One would be tropical and another would be temperate grasslands. Now, example of temperate grasslands would include Eurasian steppes, North American prairies, and Argentine pampas. These are very, very famous temperate grasslands in the world. And tropical grasslands would include the hot savannas of the sub-Saharan Africa and northern Australia. Now, tropical grasslands, usually they have dry and wet seasons that remain warm overall for all the time, which means temperature is around 25 degree to 30 degrees Celsius. But that is not the case with the temperate ones. But the temperate grasslands are not the same. Temperate grasslands, usually they have very cold winters and warm summers with some rain, and below 0 degree temperature in winters and above 32 degree temperature or 232 degree temperature in summers could be seen in these temperate grasslands. And one more important thing to note here is that wildfires are very, very common in these grasslands because they prevent the existence of woody trees or any woody plants, and they won't spread due to these fires, and grasslands ecosystem is maintained. Now, as you all know, that United Nations General Assembly, it has named the year 2026 as the International Year for Rangeland and Pastoralist. It will be led by Food and Agriculture Organization FAO. And these rangelands, it consists of grasslands, it consists of savannas, deserts, and shrublands, and are very vital for biodiversity, ecosystem regulation, and climate regulation in the world. Now, naming 2026 as the International Year for Rangelands and Pastoralists, it means that UN just want to promote awareness, wants to promote responsible investment and secure pastoralist lands and mobility rights throughout the world. Also, they want to strengthen inclusive governance and improve rangeland management, which will contribute to sustainable livelihood and the world achieving the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs). Which is why all the problems which are existing in the protection of grasslands, which might include misclassification and policy blindness, which might include institutional silos existing, which might include forest-centric climate policies, which might include a neglect to disturbance ecologies, or inadequate data and monitoring of the authorities, and marginalization of pastoralist communities, all these problems urgently needs to be solved. And there needs to be a contingent plan, and grassland needs to be included as a part of national and world level climate plans. So the way forward would be to officially recognize grasslands as a distinct natural ecosystems in the world. That would be the first step. And they would not be degraded and protected. And also legal protection to the grasslands should be provided as we are providing to the forests as well. While this is being done, indigenous and pastoral communities needs to be empowered to a great extent, and science-driven restoration solutions needs to be coming up in order to empower them and in order to rehabilitate them and in order to ensure that their livelihood is secure and maintained. So one thing we need to understand here is that protecting a biome like grassland cannot happen in silos and it cannot happen in isolation, but it must come about through a goal which is shared by various UN bodies altogether. And as we all know, grasslands are very, very important for climate resilience. They're very important for biodiversity and very important for ensuring livelihood for a lot of communities in the world. Which is why correcting policy blind spots and empowering pastoral communities and integrating grasslands into the global climate policies and global policies and national policies relating to protection of the ecosystem, grasslands inclusion would go a very long way. And this year of 2026 would prove as a year of change, especially for the huge ecosystems of grassland in the world. And definitely this would be a very positive move for environment sustainability and environmental protection, not just in India, but throughout the world. I hope you gained some new perspective from this session. Do let me know what are your views surrounding it in the comment section.